This episode of The Edge is brought to you by Audible.com, offering more than 180,000 titles for smartphone, tablet, and desktop. To get a free audiobook of your choice and help Trek.fm at the same time, visit audibletrial.com/trekfm. And also by Enterprise in Space, an international program of the nonprofit National Space Society. Find out how you can help science and education and become a virtual crew member aboard the NSS Enterprise Orbiter by visiting enterpriseinspace.org. And if you want to join the conversation and share your thoughts on this episode, join the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type BABEL into the Facebook search field. We look forward to seeing you there.
You're listening to Trek FM.
What have you done out there on the edge of Federation space?
Hello and welcome to Tracks from the Edge, Trek FM show in which we provide commentary for new episodes of Star Trek. I'm Mike.
I'm Max.
And today we're going to be taking a look at Season 2, Episode 4 of Star Trek Discovery, Obol for Charon?
Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting that they have a show, an episode with Charon in the title when they had a ship named Charon, but this episode doesn't have anything to do with that ship that was named Charon, right?
I think that it's a reference to...
It's the dude who gets you across like the river Styx or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's a reference to that character from mythology, because there is this whole, like, you know, crossing over into another plane of existence storyline going on here. There is this, like, everyone's either dying or going to a different reality, Stranger Things style in this episode.
Yeah. I haven't seen Stranger Things, but I'll take your word for it.
What is going... Guys, what is going on?
There are only so many hours in the day, and I gotta watch this show like twice, you know, in a row in order to prepare for this. So that's like three times. So, you know, I'm sorry, I don't have time to watch Stranger Things.
Oh my God.
I still haven't finished Outlander. I still haven't finished Westworld. I haven't finished West Wing. I haven't finished anything with West in the title. I haven't even started Wild Wild West. You know, I haven't watched that America to Me show yet.
Have you seen Fievel Goes West?
No.
What is going on?
I don't know. It's just one of those things.
Have you seen North by Northwest?
I have seen North by Northwest.
Okay, well, there.
Yeah.
So every other gap in your viewing history is abhorrent to me.
Yeah. Anyway, Star Trek Discovery.
Sure, guys.
Obol for Charon, or something along those lines. This episode was directed by Lee Rose, who directed an episode last season. She did the Choose Your Pain episode. She introduced the F-bomb to Star Trek, and this year she's introduced a lot of things to the canon, including cheeseburgers, Prince, David Bowie.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's pretty much it.
Those are the things.
I mean, that's all that really matters, right?
Yeah, those are on the short list of things that matter, yeah.
Okay, cool. So the episode was written, I mean, you could tell after watching it, but there were 5 people involved with the writing of this episode. 3 people have story credit, including Gretchen Berg, Aaron Harberts, and Jordan Nardino. Mm-hmm. And 2 people have screenplay credit, including Andrew Colville, who wrote last week's episode, and Alan McElroy, who this is the first episode that he's credited on as a writer. He is a very good writer who has written many things in the past. Most notably, to me anyway, he's the creator of that animated Spawn show that was on HBO in the 90s.
I saw it.
But yeah, no, he's written a lot of things. He's written a lot of like horror movies and stuff like that. He did his very first credit, in fact, is Halloween 4: The Return of Michael Myers, which I've never seen but always wanted to. And he's written a bunch of bunch of TV, bunch of movies. He wrote The Perfect Guy, which is fantastic. The first movie I ever saw on a laser projector. So there you go.
The Perfect Guy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fine.
Yeah.
Fine. I have no idea what this movie is, but that's fine.
Oh, it's great. Anyway.
Okay.
There's one thing which I want to say.
Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. Talking
Okay.
points. What's the thing you got to say? Come on. Let's alienate some people.
There was a thing, right, where someone was talking to Patrick Stewart about the Picard show, right?
Picard show. That's what it's got to be called.
And they're like, so maybe journalists, you know how they are, right? Like,
those guys. Fake news. Yep.
It's like, we haven't even started this thing, right? And they're like, so maybe another movie? And he's like, well, that if we did a movie, that would be a long way off. Right now, we're set up for 3 seasons. And the takeaway from that is we're set up for 3 seasons. Like, what exactly does that mean? And all the rest of it. But it got me thinking, like, I was thinking about this before. They talked about this Section 31 show and how it's a long ways off and how Georgiou is very much involved in season 3 of Discovery, and how, some of these shows may be replacements for other shows and all this stuff. And then there was a comment from Alex Kurtzman saying that basically they are working towards rolling right into Section 31 after shooting season 3 of Discovery. And I have a theory that they're planning on only doing 3 seasons of Discovery and then ending the show. I think they're doing the thing which just makes sense to do, which is, what I didn't think they were going to do, since it was part of CBS, and CBS likes to run shows for decades instead of seasons, Mm-hmm. But I think they might have a plan to end this show after 3 years and then start up something else. And I'm down with that idea.
That's plausible. I think it depends on the viewers. I mean, like, if they have the numbers, then they might keep it going. But like, the best way of keeping people interested is to bring in new stuff. I mean, it's why Netflix keeps making new shows and canceling stuff, because everyone's excited about the new thing. It's,
I think there's something to it, which I kind of love. There's like this thing that happens. I mean, we've talked about this a lot. Like, everyone's sad when their favorite show it ends, but like I'm kind of all for it, because I like the idea that there is an ending. I have trouble. I mean, I've never seen the show, but if I were a fan of Supernatural, I would have trouble getting excited for season 17, because I'd feel like they're just going through the motions at that point. I mean, maybe they're not, or whatever. I'm just saying, and nothing against Supernatural or whatever. I'm just using that as an example. Whereas you tell me, like, Legion is ending after season 3, and I say, oh, cool. Like, even though I have way more interest in Legion than Supernatural or whatever, I don't want to see Legion go on for 16 seasons. I want to see Legion have an ending. And that's something which Supernatural doesn't have, I'm assuming.
Supernatural's got a lot of endings, bro.
Okay.
Supernatural has had a lot of, like, ending level, like, finales. They've ended that show a lot of times. Season 5's finale, it's like, yeah, the apocalypse happened. We won. Game over. Going home, winners.
Okay.
And, and then season 6 rolls around and the showrunner's gone and replaced by somebody new, and they're like, you know what? We can keep this going for another 10 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's all I'm saying, is that I am totally cool with them ending Discovery after 3 seasons, if that is, in fact, what they are doing. We shall see, but whatever. It is what it is. And yeah. So
Yeah, I'm not for or against it. If it's the right thing to do, it's the right thing to do. If it isn't, I'll say that was dumb, guys.
okay, cool. All right. Should we start this episode up?
Oh, why not?
Okay. We have gone past the CBS All Access logo. We are approximately 8 seconds in on the American stream. If you don't have a logo in front of your episode, just start it up on the black before the show starts, and it should be fine. And, hey, probably won't be talking much about what's on screen anyway, right? Because that's kind of our thing.
That's our thing, man. We don't talk about what's going on screen.
Yeah.
Just for fun, we should do it for like the first 5 minutes and see how it feels.
Okay, let's try it out.
All right.
All right. So I'm going to give a countdown.
Okay.
And then we will start this up in 3, 2, 1, start. Previously on Star Trek Discovery, that is a Enterprise. And there is a Burnham looking at some holographic displays.
Mm-hmm. Spinning holograms around her, and then she's looking at a 3D hologram of a Spock drawing. And they're like, oh, look at this Spock drawing. It's in 3D. And Pike is like, that's a dope display. I want to be able to draw in 3D. And
he's not, because he doesn't like the 3D. He likes the view screens.
And then
like
that
the
girl
one that
from
he's
that
watching
one
right now.
24 shows up, and she's like, "Oh my god, can you believe this?" And she's like, "I was in the Crow City of Angels. Did you see it? It was pretty cool." And then there's this like red angel on the screen, and they call it the Red Angel, and I'm like, that looks like something out of Halo. And I'm like, oh, I haven't played a Halo game in a long time. Are those any good anymore?
And then Tilly gets a piece of asteroid and gets knocked across the room. And then there's May with her new shirt, which you can buy on StarTrek.com right now. And then Stamets shows up and gives her an injection. And sooner or later, we'll actually get to the episode proper. But for the time being, we'll just watch these clips from previous episodes. So there's an interesting thing about this episode that we're about to watch. The reaction that I've seen on the internet, well, there's been 2 reactions which I've seen on the internet.
Oh, I love the hot takes from the internet. What did the internet say about this episode? Come on, bring it. What did they say? Was it positive? Was it overwhelmingly positive?
Well, here's what it is. One reaction was, this is the best episode of Star Trek Discovery. I see that a lot. And then here's another reaction, which I've seen a lot. This is the worst episode of Star Trek Discovery. And I think I would say that I disagree with both of those and would put it pretty squarely in the middle. I don't know. But it does start off with Rebecca Romijn as number 1, as we're seeing on screen right now. And that's pretty
craziest
cool.
thing about this is like we're watching this, and my wife is like, "Who is that?" And I'm like, "That's Rebecca Romijn." And the craziest thing about that is not that Rebecca Romijn is playing a character in this show; it's that she looks exactly like she looked in the show originally. Like,
I don't know about that, but
it's
I buy
weird.
it. I buy it nonetheless. It's cool that she's in here, and she's eating a cheeseburger. Come on. It's the best. And fries. And then when Pike gives her a hard time about it, she's like, guess what, Pike? I'm going to drink a milkshake too, so, screw you. It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
That was definitely the vibe.
Yeah.
No, that's not the vibe. The vibe was they're flirting. This guy never stops flirting. It's
with the
ridiculous.
flirting. No, he's not he's whatever. If you give me a hard time about eating a cheeseburger, I'm not going to assume that you're flirting with me, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway. All right. So, here's Tilly with her friend, her best friend May.
Mm-hmm.
And
she's a weird blob.
Mm-hmm.
The size of which fluctuates dramatically.
Well, hey, she went from a speck to I mean, because you figure she was like inside of Tilly's like shoulder for how long, right?
Oh, no. I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying, like, it's weird that like the size keeps fluctuating and nobody's like, hey, where is that mass coming from? Like, doesn't that beg some questions? Like, how is it doing that? And
I would assume that it's
Tilly
like
vanishes, and I'm like, yeah, it can pull mass in from outside of this universe, guys.
Okay, I was thinking it was more like a marshmallow or whatever, but yeah, I guess that would work too. This moment here where she puts, her blobby hand on the glass, like it's played for like, oh my god, that's so freaky, but like I see that as like a sign of affection, no?
Oh yeah, I mean that blob was and always will be Tilly's friend.
I'm just saying, like this is, look at that. It's just like, hey, Tilly. I don't know. I feel bad for the blob, I have to say. Oh my God, look who it is, Linus.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
The best character in the history of Star Trek, and he finally gets to talk. And oh my God, he has the best dialogue ever, I had a cold last week. It sucked. I mean, come on. That is amazing. It's the best thing I've ever heard in my life.
All right. That's a
I couldn't love a character more. I'm sorry.
To quote The Good Place, that's a real bummer of a life.
I haven't seen The Good Place.
What's going on?
So here's Saru with his salted tea and his cold. And here's the thing. I had a cold last night, which sucked.
Oh.
Saurian, 6 nasal canals. I mean, come on. Are you kidding me? Anyway, so here's the thing which I don't understand, right?
Okay.
Saru has his cold.
Yeah.
And he's like, later on in the episode, he's like, okay, it's not actually a cold, it's the Vihari, and I'm dying. And I don't know what's going on, to be fair. I don't know what's going on, but I can only assume that it was triggered by the sphere.
Yes.
Okay. Where is the sphere in relation to them right now with his cold?
Oh, it's mad far away, yo. Like, it's thousands of light years away.
So, I mean, obviously we don't know exactly, and who knows what the ever, but they're not even going to the sphere, right? They
they are going to the sphere. Like, they don't know it. They are going basically right towards it.
But they don't know that. So it just seems strange to me that would activate there. It doesn't quite add up.
Okay, but his like threat ganglia starts popping out when danger is not present, but when it's approaching.
Okay.
So he is intuiting the actual future. He is actually, his spidey sense is so attuned that he's like, oh, somebody's going to come back in time and attack me. Like, that's the level of intuition that we're dealing with. It's sci-fi intuition.
Okay.
So his sci-fi biology is responding to a threat that hasn't arrived yet because that's how advanced it is.
I guess that's fair.
And his people were just cool with it. They were like, we sense danger when it's way off. There's no logical reason we would sense it, but we sense it. And when it happens, we're like, all right, I'm going to go get dead now.
Yep. All right, so here we are into the credits. And here's an interesting thing about the acting credits in this one. Neither Wilson Cruz or Shazad Latif appears. So I guess if we're going to continue the hockey analogy, they're shorthanded. They got a player in the penalty box. I don't know.
A penalty box, like in that one episode of Star Trek.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that a hockey thing?
I believe it is a hockey thing.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, I already forgot that we were being screen specific. Oh, angel on the screen.
There you go.
Oh, there's a hand.
With the Vulcan thingy and the
It was doing the Vulcan thing. It was throwing the Vulcan fingers.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember what either of the shows are now, but both Jordan Nardino, who wrote the story for this episode, and Alan McElroy, who co-wrote the script for this episode, I believe both of them have pilots which are in development currently. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, Gene Roddenberry, Brian Fuller, Alex Kurtzman, Alan McElroy, Andrew Colville, Jordan Nardino, Gretchen Berg, Aaron Harberts, and Lee Rose. And the disco.
Yeah. So, here we are, Star Trek Discovery, Season 2.
There's
Not
Linus.
part of the JJ verse.
Linus.
Frickin' red sphere.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah, it's a real bummer, you guys.
I'm okay with red spheres, whatever. I mean, this idea, this concept, it's very much a Star Trek concept. I mean, it's V'ger. It's the probe from Star Trek 4. It's,
I keep trying to figure out like how this connects to other things. I'm like, okay, so the Red Angels, they're all over the place. Like they're like, are they an ancient civilization? It's dead now, like the Iconians. Like, are they like? How have we never heard of this before? Like we've been in this universe for a while, and it's never come up. Maybe it has come up.
Think of all the crazy things which have happened on all the other shows that we never hear about on any of the other shows. I mean, lots of times crazy stuff just happens.
Well, for the most part, the reason we haven't heard about them is because, like for the bulk of Star Trek's history, it was like it growing in chronological order, and for the most part, they were separated by a lot of time and space.
Well, I mean, except when they had two shows running.
When they had Deep Space Nine and Next Generation running, Deep Space Nine was very much wrapped up in its own little reality, and Next Generation was very much like dealing with things that were very far away from Deep Space Nine. And if they were like, "Hey, did you hear what happened with the Enterprise and Q?" Like, what would Cisco say? Like, "No, I didn't hear about. Why would I know? Why would I've heard that? Why would I've heard that?"
But I mean, I think that's kind of the point, right? Like, we're not going to hear about all these crazy things, I mean, it's a thing that happened, and
yeah, I mean, like, remember that time that Spock killed some people, stole a spaceship?
Yeah,
and
but
flew
clearly
away?
he didn't kill anyone, and he didn't steal a spaceship. And how many times was Kirk put on trial for murder in the original series or whatever, or Scotty, or any of those things?
Yeah, it was a handful of times, and if it was not a humongously significant thing that involved like multiple captains and starships and an interstellar chase and an ancient civilization that was apparently not only a threat to the Federation but also the Klingon. I mean, come on, guys, let's be honest.
It's not going to come up in like everyday conversation,
It would come up in some conversations.
Well, not necessarily some that would appear on screen,
You think after like all of this time in Star Trek 6, like Kirk is on trial. He's like, that guy you work with, he's crazy, right? Like, you might have cleared his name at some point, but that guy murdered some people, probably.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Spock.
Oh, no, because because clearly that's not what happened, and it's going to be really obvious.
Like the Klingons wouldn't have brought that up?
I'm just saying.
Come on, there's an accusation against him. It's coming up in that trial.
Okay, all right. So here's Jet Reno back doing her thing.
I love Tig Notaro's presence on this show. I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, she's good in this. I like this character. The dialogue in this episode in general is very good.
Yeah, I agree. I think that everything about this scene, like them like fighting and stuff, it's very fun. Had Tilly not been in the room making her Tilly faces, whole scene would have fallen apart for me.
Yeah, Tilly is kind of the glue that holds the show together when you think about it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is this the first reference to pizza in Star Trek? Oh, no, it's not. There's Star Trek 4. Yeah. All right.
I'm sure it came up on Voyager with Tom Paris's random 20th century trivia nonsense.
He was eating hot dogs and stuff, so yeah. Oh, but Gum. It's the first time Gum has appeared in Star Trek, I'm pretty sure, right?
Is it the first time that Gum has appeared in Star Trek?
I mean, unless there's something in like one of the time travel episodes. But duct tape.
It just occurred to me now because like Tig Notaro was on screen, but I was like, oh my God, Sarah Silverman was on Star Trek too. What's going on? This is weird.
Apparently, the word on the street is that at one point they were talking about having her come back, you know, just like in Star Trek 4, you know, like one of those types of deals, and actually have her become like a regular on Voyager.
Oh my God, what? How many ways can Voyager retroactively disappoint me? Why did they not do that?
I don't know.
Oh my God, guys.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So they just got hit by some electro juice.
Yep. I like this storyline, the overarching storyline of this episode, which is, you know, there's this thing which is apparently causing them a lot of harm, but in reality, just trying to give them information before it dies. It works for me. It works for me. It's a very Star Trek plot.
Oh yeah, it's very classic Star Trek. It feels like a combination of like an original series and a Next Gen and a Voyager and an Enterprise episode all wrapped up.
I don't know about that,
but
but
it's like
it has a very disaster vibe to it, you know?
Oh yeah, like when the doors shut, I was like, okay, we're doing this episode. Okay.
But I'm
okay with that because that's a solid episode.
Yeah. And this episode, I mean, it flies. Like I saw a number of people talking about like, there's too much going on here. It's just too much. And to me, I'm like, no, like I can follow it. You know, I'm a product of the MTV generation. Mm-hmm. I can keep up, you know, It's Blues Riff and B.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm okay with that, especially after last week when like basically nothing happened. You know?
You forgot about Babyhead. That was classic.
Right. So
that was amazing.
Yeah, anyway. So yeah.
This episode does not top Babyhead.
I don't know.
This comes close. This comes close.
It's such a great like 80s comedy moment. Like you know what I mean? Like it's almost like something out of a cartoon. I love the fact that they did that. It's so perfect. Oh, the stuff that, you know, Mary Wiseman does in this episode is insane because she has some of the funniest stuff like in the entire show, right? And we know that she's really good at that. But then like when she's like doing like the May voice thing, like that is dead on. Like her delivery, her mannerisms, everything, it is so perfect and so
somehow creepy.
She
like made her voice sound like a different person and put reverb into her own voice.
Okay,
it's crazy.
I mean that was impressive.
That's some like Frank Welker level voice skills right there.
But like her just like her body language and everything in that scene and the way that she was like able to really pick up on the other actresses' mannerisms and stuff. I mean, it was so good, you know? I mean,
to me, the moment that really makes it work is when Stamets is drilling a hole in her head, and she has that one moment of like, okay, this singing a song thing is not helping, bro. This is actually making it much worse. I am more on edge than I was before you like were holding the drill.
Yeah.
And now, oh my God, you're drilling me in the head. Oh my God, this is crazy.
Yeah,
oh,
because
it's
he's
over?
just kind of like
It's over?
slowly bringing it up, you know?
Oh, it's like, what is this? What is this American Psycho slowly bringing up the drill to my head? Like, no, dude.
Well, we're singing a William Shatner
have you
song.
no bedside manner?
Yeah.
You get it close, and you're like, all right, let's chill out. Let's close our eyes.
You
let's
have
think about something.
You have Tig drill while you're like focused, like with your head turned in the other direction, so you don't see the drill coming up to your head.
There are a lot of things you do. You don't have her sing a song and then slowly raise the drill to her head. And you're like, everything's fine. Nothing's going to happen. It's all good. I'm just going to drill a hole right into the side of your head. No. That was ridiculous.
Stamets is good at some things. Performing brain surgery, maybe not one of them. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so I actually went back and rewatched The Brightest Star, the Saru short trek after this to see exactly like, because I'm watching this and I'm like, this seems really different from what was going on in that episode, and it's not. They leave a lot of stuff out of that episode, but they do talk about like Vihari and when Vihari comes and everything like that, but it's just not really ever explicitly stated in that episode that it's a physical thing. And here obviously it is. But boy, there is like that is like a dense mythology which does not have a clear path at all. You know what I mean?
Really, you don't say. There's no clear logical through line with the Saru's origin story mythology. There is what you're saying. You're saying this.
It's a little weird, but there are a lot of things which, because I'm based on credits and production and everything. I think it's a logical assumption that this episode was written before that. Like the short treks are in essence kind of like the equivalent of when like Marvel was doing like prequel comics to like random blockbusters in the 90s. Like I have a Mission Impossible prequel comic, or the best one was the Independence Day prequel comic, where it's like, here's what all the characters were doing before the movie, and it was literally like, there's the line where like Jeff Goldblum is like, oh yeah, I punched the president. And he's like, he wasn't the president when I punched him. And then like in this prequel comic where it's like, you have to see this first, or you have to read this first in order to understand what's going on in Independence Day, and like you see him like punch the president. And me being me, I read the comic before seeing the movie. So then when they have that line, which is very smoothly integrated into the dialogue, where it's like, he punched the president. He's like, it wasn't the president when I punched him. Like, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that moment when that happened. Oh, that's cool that they referenced that. But anyway, so like in that thing, like there's actually a scene where like he's with his sister and she's like, God, take this knife. It's good for chopping flowers off of things or whatever, anyway, but obviously that was all written after this. So
tell me more about the Independence Day prequel comic.
You see Randy Quaid or Dennis Quaid or whoever it was. Randy, you see Randy Quaid get abducted by aliens, so that's clear that he's not just a crazy guy.
He's not just crazy?
Yeah, it's explicitly stated, so you don't have to worry about any of that subtext or any of that.
I was concerned.
Okay.
I was concerned about that character's overall state, his mental health. Okay. I mean, he's got kids. Yeah. It's concerning.
Anyway, check it out. I'm sure you can find it on like Mile High Comics or something like that. Go to One Stop Comics in Oak Park, Illinois. I'm sure they have a copy in the back room. They've got over 500,000 back issues. So,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, on a few occasions in this episode, Michael Burnham looks like she is just about to burst into tears.
And then she does.
Really close to crying.
Yeah.
And like 3 of those times, I thought, I don't buy it.
Oh, no?
No.
I bought it. I bought it. Yeah, I bought it. Whatever. I mean, I don't necessarily know how well this storyline works because you know that he's not going to die.
What?
Although
okay.
they did have me like when he's on his deathbed, they did have me for a second where I was like, they did just snap Culber's neck just like that. But so maybe, and they've talked about like, oh, this is television, for real in the 21st century, like nobody's safe. So there was a moment there where I was like, and I mean, I'm sure this is what I was supposed to be thinking at the time, but this is what I was thinking. Like, okay, it would be weird if they killed Saru because he's sort of their weird alien character, and then you have a Star Trek show without a weird alien character.
He's their Spock,
right? But
there is a Spock.
But there is that. But what I was thinking,
coming out there, they're coming close.
That's not what I was thinking. What I was thinking was, oh my God, they're making way for Linus to become a series regular. And I got like really excited. Okay. Which is not what they were going for in this episode, but that's okay.
I will say this. I had one reaction, which was, this is ridiculous. And then my wife was like, is he leaving the show? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't care about like the articles about the show's future. I don't really pay attention. If Mike hasn't told me about it, it's probably not happening. So
I don't think that's something that I would tell you, leaving. To be honest, because that would be,
yeah, it's possible.
I mean, I'm like, who cares who's what, I mean, I don't know. I don't care about, actors.
But like, I was like, I don't think he's leaving. But when he was like, cut off these things, I was like, oh, I know what's going on. This whole plot line is about getting rid of his threat ganglia because it's annoying that they have to CGI noodles sticking out of the back of his head every time they're about to get shot at.
I'm not sure that was their motivation, but I will say that, I do like, okay, and we're jumping ahead here, but that's fine. Who cares, right? So like, when they said that, when they're like, oh, his threat ganglia are gone, my first thought was, this is the equivalent of giving Data an emotion chip or giving, Geordi the ocular implants. What you're doing is you're taking away that thing that you gave the character in order to make them unique, Like, there's a reason why they ignored Data's emotion chip.
I agree with what you're saying on principle, but Geordi's visor and Data's emotions are not the same thing.
Oh no, they're not at all. But
Geordi could have had like straight up eyes,
right,
in season 2, and it would not have changed anything.
And they were talking about doing that.
He would not have chronic migraines today.
No, I mean, that's totally true. But like they talked about how like the reason why they didn't do that is because there's a reason why they gave him the visor in the first place, and that's what they were trying to say about whatever. Anyway, so my point being, like, that was my first reaction to what they did to Saru. They took away the thing that made him unique, his defining characteristic in a lot of ways. But then when he starts talking about like, oh, well, this is the thing, like, I need to go home and tell my people. Like, that's when I started really thinking about like this idea that like, is this thing only 3 seasons? In which case, this could be part of his arc. And it's like, it's the next step. I mean, just like they say in this episode, like, it's the next step in the character's evolution, and it's going to play a major role clearly in this season, but even going forward with the character. And when you think about it that way, if you think about this as being like one let's say 45-hour thing compared to, you know, like an ongoing series where now all of a sudden, like less than halfway through season 2, your weird alien guy loses like the thing which makes him the weirdest. Like that is really interesting to me, and now I'm on board with that. If that makes any sense.
I am not opposed to it. I think that I am a little bit concerned that the thread that they're going down is like, now that he doesn't have this instinct for fear, this fear response, like always like ticking away inside his head, that now he's emboldened and he's going to go do crazy stuff. And the idea that he's like, oh, I need to go tell my people that their reality that they live under is a lie. And I'm like, bro, we knew that way earlier than you did.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the fact that there was just this one thing, and I mean, the other thing that I kept on thinking, and maybe this will come into play, but like, they just had the whole thing where they couldn't tell the humans living on that planet about, you know, their reality because they were a pre-warp civilization.
Yeah. I'm still upset about this.
I mean, it's one of those things which really feels like an idea that someone had, Brian Fuller, I think, the person who had it. I mean, it's got Fuller written all over it, which...
Oh, yeah, it's full of Fuller.
which was really never, like... They were never really able to get a grasp on how that idea would function in a Star Trek show, you know, like how it
or at all.
Maybe, you know, I mean, it's like a really interesting idea, but it doesn't necessarily work. And so, anyway, but the one thing which I really hope they don't do, especially since we've already seen it once already, is I hope they don't do that thing. Like when he's sitting in sickbay and he's like, I feel power. I'm like, are they going to do Bad Saru? Like, are they going to do that thing that they did with, like, well, Data and Spock and all these other characters?
Are they going to do that thing that Star Trek has done historically over and over and over again? Yeah.
And that they already did once with Saru?
Yeah, they're going there.
Okay, because I really hope they don't do that, because that's just another thing just like this, where it's like, okay, we know he's not going to die. We know that Saru will eventually be... I mean, we've already been through that. We've already been down that road, and it didn't work the first time.
What they're going for is something that is like it's a human story, even though it has aliens. And I mean, you and I know that when a person is like fundamentally like good and decent and they get like just the tiniest taste of power, they become monsters.
I mean, I see the thing about, I mean, I'm not really too concerned about the realism because, I mean, Star Trek has sort of always been about metaphor and everything like that. But that being said, I don't necessarily think that it works. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what it does. We'll see what they do.
Yeah, I have a cynical side, and it is often like it's my threat ganglia. And when I'm watching a TV show and like that ganglia starts like spiking, I'm like, oh, they're doing something stupid.
Oh well. So here they are. They're about to drill a hole in Tilly's head, all pie style and everything.
Yeah. Okay. I know that Stamets is not a doctor.
Yeah.
But he is a person. So, in my opinion, this scene is crazy.
I mean, I guess my question is like, for one thing, it doesn't seem, I mean, you know, it's not like they put a mark on her head or whatever that said, like, this is where we got to do it. Maybe it doesn't need to be that precise, but also, is Stamets left-handed or right-handed? Because the fact that he's doing this with his left hand, if he's right-handed, like, that's not a good idea. Right? I mean, I'm just thinking. And maybe it's not that big of a deal because, I mean, it seems like he just drilled like a little teeny tiny hole in that, like
I agree. It's not deep. A big hole. It's a very tiny hole.
Didn't go that
in
deep.
Her head.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, they probably didn't even get through the skull, right? I mean, I'm assuming. I don't know.
It's like they say it's trepanation. It's through the skull.
Okay, all right. Well, then they did. So, I mean, look at her. Look at how creepy she is. I mean, like the way that her eyes are, just sort of like half open, and I mean, it is like a complete transformation into this other character, which, I mean, you could totally see that other actress performing it just like this, right? And it's brilliant performance. I'm fairly convinced that Mary Wiseman is the best actress on this whole show. So,
yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I mean, it's like within like a minute, like when she first appeared, I was like, okay, she's awesome.
Yeah. She's pretty great. So, and this is creepy, but it works really well.
I was a little like I was fuzzy on like the staging of that moment was very weird because it seemed like Tig just like pulled out a blowtorch, and like Fungus May was like, "Whoa, let's freak out, everybody!"
I think that's what happened.
It's like, oh, okay, so the fungus they couldn't figure out what to do with it. Like it sees a blowtorch and it's like deal breaker.
I think they were just like, "This is it. We've had enough of this,"
I mean, the motivation of Fungus Monster is very strange. It seems to be very opposed to Stamets because, jumping is destroying their ecosystem.
Which, of course, like, as soon as that happened, I'm just like, oh, boom goes the dynamite. Okay. So this is the thing which we've been building towards. This is the explanation for why there is no spore jumping later on.
This isn't news.
I mean, we knew that
this.
It was coming, but I didn't know how. The question has always been like, well, how are they going to explain it? And it's like,
I mean, not even that is news because it's stated that like the jumping is actually damaging like the mycelial network.
I guess I didn't pick up on that. But
it's in his like Culber dream hallucination, like trapped in fungus land nonsense.
Okay, all right.
It's a thing, but like the idea that like, oh, there's a sentient organism there. It's like, oh well, I mean, we kind of assumed like it was intelligent, so I guess it's got individual intelligences within it. Okay, fine, whatever, that's cool.
It's just I mean that kind of just like seals the deal right there. Like, yes, of course, that's why we don't do this. So, yeah. So here the thing is exploding, and Saru's like, the light's so beautiful, it's almost like music. That's what John McTiernan was talking about when he talked about movies. Movies, transcending narrative structure. Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm a little annoyed that like really early on in the episode, he's like, there's all this ultraviolet light flashing around inside. And I'm like, are we not addressing That's significant.
Oh, I mean, they also did. I mean, there's a little bit of stuff where it's like, oh, okay. Like there's that random throwaway line from like 2 episodes ago where he's like, I speak 94 languages, until he's like, what? And it's like, oh, hey, that came in handy here.
Yeah, like you're really nailing the C-3PO bit. Like,
yeah,
we get it. That's where they got the idea for you.
But I mean, that was that I don't know. It was an interesting little thing. I mean, like when he says it in that other episode, it's like, oh, that's a great little throwaway line, especially because that's what Tilly's performance suggests it is. But then in this one, I'm like, oh, okay. So the 94, okay, so they just came up with that for this episode, and then they planted that seed like 2 episodes prior. I don't know if that necessarily works as well as they'd hoped. This is the one moment which got me in this whole Saru dying thing, when everyone sort of like stands up and gives him like a final salute. Like this is the one moment where I was like, okay, you got me. Like this totally works. This is very emotional. I'm feeling very moved by this. But yeah.
It's no baby head.
No. But okay, so here's Saru, and like I get the idea, like he's taking his shirt off in order to be more comfortable, obviously, because he's about to die. But here's my question, which really bothers me throughout this. Like, those boots are super uncomfortable. How come he's not taking off his boots? Like, you'd think that would be the first thing that goes, right?
I don't know if this made it into the last episode, but I don't see feet.
Yes, that made it into the last episode, but okay.
So I had no idea he was still wearing his boots.
He's still wearing
Where
boots.
are his boots in frame?
They're not in this frame anymore, but they were in the like establishing shot.
They were in the wide?
Yeah.
I didn't see them. Their feet.
Someone on Twitter once said something which resonated with me to this day.
Oh, this will be interesting.
Yeah.
Was it something about politics?
No. They said the most unrealistic thing about any movie is that when a character returns home, they don't immediately take off their pants.
Don't get it.
Okay.
No.
Anyway.
That's not me.
All right. That's fair.
Here's the thing. I am a guy who puts his shoes and socks on to go to the bathroom.
Okay, that's weird.
And that is in the next room.
Yeah, that's weird. Anyway, that's very Kelpian of you.
Yeah, that's right.
This scene, like, I know that it's supposed to be very emotional. I know that we're getting a lot of stuff in it that's important and everything about it. But when he's lying down here and he's asking her to kill him, essentially, and then there's the whole thing where like she can't, and then they're talking, and then they talk for like a good long time. The whole time that this was going on, the only thing that I could think of is like, this is Deadpool's death scene from Deadpool 2. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But seemingly longer. And not done for laughs. It just doesn't.
Oh, was this not supposed to be funny?
But here's the other thing about it, right? And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but when I was first watching this thing and his throat ganglia fall off,
yeah,
I was like, oh, so that was like something like whatever it was, the signal did something to him, something like that. But like later on, like in the next scene, he's like, so really, we would have been fine if we weren't cutting off our threat ganglia? Like, are you telling me that no Kelpian ever was just... Because he says, like, if you don't cut him off, then I'll just go mad. Like, there was never a Kelpian who was like, you know what? I'm just not going to cut off my threat ganglia because I don't want to. I'm scared.
Dude, are you going to come on board with the Kelpian origin doesn't make any sense position? Because like,
no, I mean, I guess I'm just.
I feel like I could start a political party about this. Like, I could write speeches about how frustrated I am that his biology doesn't make sense.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. That's fair enough, right? I mean, it just seems like wow, like that is like a super coincidence then, because why is he waiting so long? And is it because just like she couldn't, because I mean, it's not like we're talking about like, he's like, tomorrow you're going to cut off my threat ganglia. And then she's like, I can't do it tomorrow. And then they like waited another day. And, you know, I mean, she's like, I can't do it. And then he's like, okay, well then promise me that you'll talk to Spock. And then she's like, okay. And then he's like, okay. She says, now I'll do it. And then the thing just happens to fall. Like that is like, I mean, that's the, you know, cutting the wire at 1 second, like, but without a timer. You know what I mean? Like that does not work at all. Like the coincidence there is so great.
You can argue this from different perspectives. Like on the one hand, I was like, okay, wait, did it just fall off when she like kind of like poked it with the knife? Or did she even touch it? I don't think she even like made contact with it with the knife.
Well, she said
and then I was like, maybe it's like his baby threat ganglia and his adult threat ganglia is going to grow in gradually.
Well, maybe that could be a thing that happens. We don't know, right?
Oh yeah, I mean maybe his adult threat ganglia is very angry about a lot of weird stuff. Like, why not? We don't know. They've been killing themselves every time their threat ganglia got all red and achy. So they're like, hey, I mean, I guess, you know, whole new ball game now. We're in uncharted territory now, making up history as we go along. I mean, like, there's so many issues with this nonsense. And I find it very frustrating. And at the same time, I'm like trying to justify it in my head. I'm like, oh, it just fell off when she's like bringing the knife close. And I'm like, well, maybe it was like a psychological thing. Like he decided like, okay, I'm about to lose these now. They are going to be cut off. I'm not going to pay attention to them anymore. And once he was not actively engaging with it, he was like trying to like not pay attention to them. They got the neurological signal like, okay, it's go time. Let's drop. And they just dropped off.
I mean, but then that would happen all the time. Right? I mean, because this is what they do is they cut off the threat ganglia, but
you'd think so. Or maybe every time it just falls off, that Kelpian is like, oh guys, I cut off my threat ganglia. See, look, here it is. I'm holding it.
I mean, I guess
in my hands.
Well,
everybody, I did it.
I guess to be fair, like rewatching The Brightest Star, like it could be that, you know, they're beamed up to the Baul ship before they get to this point, because they say like, oh, like one of the things they say in that episode is like, you know, well, they say that going up to the ship relieves you of the pain of the Vihari, right?
Yeah, so maybe the Baul are like, guys, here's the deal.
Yeah.
Whole new ball game. We're not going to eat you. BT dubs, your threat ganglia, totally just going to fall off. No biggie. Have a bagel. Let's chill. Like, I don't know.
Well, that could be.
We don't know what goes on there.
That could be. But, you know, I mean, like, and that's fine. You know, I mean, that is a way to explain, like, you know, maybe this has happened and they know and they're just not whatever. But the fact that there was never like a Kelpian, I mean, it still kind of stands that there was never a Kelpian who was like, I'm not going to go on that ship and you're not going to cut off my threat ganglia. And they didn't, you know, have this happen. Like, this is the first time this has ever happened. Like, that seems really weird. And it's not like they're like, well, you know, I mean, like if they would have said something like, you don't need to cut off your threat ganglia, like we can give you a shot and, you know, that'll relieve the pain. And then, you know, maybe you can live for a little while longer. I mean, like it wasn't that, you know, I mean, and it wasn't something where it's like, oh, this happened because it wasn't actually the Baul who were, you know. I mean, it just seems like, well, no one's
so many unanswered questions about the Saru origin story and his biology and his culture and his civilization and how they evolved and how the prey species and predator species can evolve intelligence side by side and a culture and civilization side by side. Oh my God, so many unanswered questions about Saru that I've been seeing for over a year.
I know. And I know, like it's kind of disappointing because I mean I never really cared about Saru, but I know like with you were like, oh, I'm super interested about this thing because it seemed like, without knowing anything about it, like it does work, right? We just don't know how, but we'll find out how.
That was the thing. Like, if you come in with confidence and you're like, all right, guys, I figured it out. I can turn rice into rocket fuel, and I'm like, okay, I'm skeptical, but go on.
Yeah.
And if they come up with something that sounds all right, I'm gonna be like, I'm really glad I hung in there.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
All right, I'm on board. The first time you came in and you said that, I thought, this sounds unrealistic and implausible, and it's possible. I'm being bluffed here. But I mean, like, if he's got something, it's worth listening to. And you say, Saru's crazy origin story that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, all right, they didn't explain how it works. So maybe when they explain how it works, I'll be like, whoa, that's pretty clever. That works great. And then they showed us some of it, and I was like, skeptical ganglia. You were really on the money that time.
Oh, well, hey, I have a question about this scene. This seems really weird. I mean, I guess maybe they're still locked in this room or whatever, but like all of this stuff is happening and everything, and like the thread is over, and like they still haven't unlocked these doors, and like Tilly is just sitting there like still covered in the goop from this like fungus, and it's like, why is she still covered in the goop from this fungus? Like, no one thought to like, just get some sort of device which will like cut open the door, and so that she could just like change into some non-goopy clothes.
Well, no, they called the bridge and were like, we got Tilly out. Everything's cool. And they were like, all right.
Very cool.
And in retrospect, they were like totally like on literal mushrooms and did not know that Tilly was still inside of this creepy Stranger Things sack.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yes, she did not get pulled out of it ever.
Oh.
That cloud that hits I don't remember her name on the show. Tig and Stamets.
Jet Reno.
Jeez, that name. Okay, when that cloud hits them, like they're like, "Oh, there's Tilly," and obviously not. That's not what happened. That was like put there by the fungus. So like Tilly was in that thing, and she's not in there anymore. She's in fungus land now.
Okay, see, I thought like while they were on mushrooms, the thing was like, come back here, Tilly, real quick while they're not looking,
It did not reabsorb her because when the fungus like was making them all like trippy and crazy, Tilly was not reacting because she was not there.
Okay. See, I'm glad that you were here to explain this to me. So that's cool. At the end of the thing that we were watching, they had a preview for next week's episode, and wow, next week's episode looks absolutely nuts. I can't wait for that one.
They go to fungus land.
I can't.
Like the episode after, like a fungus says, "Hey, when you go into fungus land, it really messes stuff up.
Yeah.
Stop doing that." And then they take Tilly there, and they're like, "We got to go to fungus land and mess some stuff up."
I'm excited. I can't wait. I'm really excited. So, yeah, fun times on the old Discovery. On the whole, so what? We started this episode by saying, we
were super screen specific the whole time.
Yeah,
if we say it a lot, maybe people will believe it afterwards, and like retroactively, like, oh, they did
stay on
a few times.
Yeah,
a few times.
There were a couple of times where they were talking about what was on screen. So,
that one time I said Red Angel when there was one on screen.
Yeah,
nailed it.
So, we started the episode with the idea that some people absolutely love this episode and some people absolutely hate this episode. And I know I said that for me it falls in the middle. I would say that, I mean, I'll be honest, like the season started off, episode 1, I was like, oh, this is so great. Like this is different from season 1, but boy, it's fun. And then episode 2, I was like, oh, well, that's okay. And then episode 3, I was like,
well, come on, baby head.
Yeah. But now this one, I was like, that was really good. But then again, my wife turned to me and was like, that episode was terrible. And so I'm curious, where do you fall on the spectrum for this episode?
Well, it's an interesting question, and you, knowing me, are very aware that I love ranking things.
See, this is what I love about you, and you know what? I'm going to let you off the hook because, like, I've watched a lot of movies with you. And most of the time, come out of it and I'm like, what did you think? And 99% of the time you're like, why are you asking me that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I the only time that I can ever think of where you were like, and it wasn't like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like your reaction was something along the lines of, that was really good. I think was probably like The Girl Next Door. It's the only time that I can think of.
Yeah, because sometimes it's like, okay, all right, this is a lot better than I was expecting. Mm-hmm. That is great. That is an amazing feeling. That is really cool. I had that with Legally Blonde as well. It happens sometimes. Something's a lot better than you expect, and you can't help but say, that was a lot better than I expected.
Okay. It's fair enough. Should we wrap this up?
Oh, I thought we were done.
Be sure to check out our Discovery coverage throughout the week. We've got Live from the Edge with Bruce and Brandy. We've got Postcards from the Edge with Amy. We've got Notes from the Edge with Chris. And then we've got just The Edge, classic, The Edge classic, the original Edge with Patrick. You'll find all of these in the main feed for The Edge and in the Trek FM master feed. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Discovery. The best place to do that is in the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook, where Amy Nelson will collect your feedback for postcards from The Edge. You can also find us on Twitter at Trek FM or send us an email using the contact form on our website at trek.fm/contact. Choose to send to a show and choose The Edge. Max, where can people find you on the internet?
I'm on Twitter at Max Hegel, and I'm other places, but I don't use those, and I don't really use Twitter.
No, you don't use Twitter at all. I'm on Twitter at Mumbles3K. Also, I'm on, I never say this, but, John said it the other day, and I'm like, oh, hey, yeah. I'm on Letterboxd at Mumbles3K. So if you want to see everything that I'm watching when I'm not watching Discovery, go over there. Check out Letterboxd.
That's a website.
It is. It's a very cool website. You can also find us on filmdamagepod.com doing a show called Film Damage where we talk about film projection. The other day someone at work was like, do you want a 35 millimeter projector?
What?
And I texted my wife and I'm like, what if I were to bring home a 35 millimeter projector? And she's like, that's fine. And I'm like, all right. I married the right person. Cool.
All right.
Anyway, you can also find me on thenerdparty.com doing a show called Retro Perspective, where we take a look at all of the movies released 25 years ago this week.
Great name.
We'd also like to thank our associate producers, Norman C. Lau, Tony Robinson, Thomas Puleo, Lisa Slack, Shoaib Mirza, Richard Rutledge, James Muldrow, Cornelia Reutner, Ryan Malett, and Brian Maloche. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your support. If you would like to help us keep all of our shows going and even become an associate producer yourself, visit patreon.com/trekfm for all the details. All right. That's it for this week's episode of Tracks from the Edge. Until next week, I didn't come up with the track thing this week. What do I say?
I don't know. I don't have a track one. I got a Trek one.
Okay, what is it?
Trek yourself before you wreck yourself.
Somehow I knew you were going to say that. That's not original. That's on a t-shirt.
I know.
Yeah.
Is it?